Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachaelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. My guest this week is Whitney Kroneberger. She is a coach for the modern day Proverbs 31 woman to grow her confidence in decisions, discover safety around money, and find joy and rest. Whitney lives in Colorado Springs with her husband and 3 children. Whitney, welcome to the Hopecast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's an honor. I'm so glad that you're here. I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit more about what you do and why you're passionate about coaching women.
Yeah, thanks. So I am a life coach for Christian female entrepreneurs. And I really am passionate about the ambitious woman, like the woman who has worked really hard to create something, has grown her business, and is just finding herself in a place where she's made the money, but she's wanting to really pull back and enjoy her life and find fulfillment in that. And oftentimes that's wrapped up in identity, and it's wrapped up into, if I pull back, then I'm going to lose what I've built. And it's just a lot of fear and insecurity, money mindset, things like that. And so I love to tie that back to the Proverbs 31 woman and just seeing what she has built and how she runs her business and the things that are important to her. Those are all things that I really like to draw from. And so a lot of the women that I'm speaking to on a daily basis are just really love Jesus a lot and love their families and just want to reprioritize and get connected. And I'm finding that they're really lonely. And so just creating a safe place to land for them where they feel safe discussing all the things that they're not, they don't have anyone to talk to about them, and their husband is kind of maybe weary from hearing it all the time. Those are my people. Those are my women that I'm coaching on a daily basis.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you mention, the modern Proverbs 31 woman, because that scripture, if you haven't read it, Proverbs 31, it's all about this woman of excellence. And King Solomon's mother is describing to him, this is what you're looking for in a godly woman, in a solid woman. And she's in the scripture, right? It sounds like she's got it all together.
Totally.
And, it's like her lamp doesn't go out at night, and, she's trading and clothes her family and her servants in fine linen. I mean, this woman's really got it going. And I think, I just know, even from a little girl growing up in the church, it was like, that feels really unattainable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we have such a hustle culture, boss babe, get it done. And it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of space for being in a posture that's receptive, that is refreshing or renewing, or that allows us to play and enjoy the things that we've built, right? It's always Absolutely. To achieve the next goal. So what made you passionate about that, Whitney? How did you get here?
Yeah. Gosh, I just love what you just said. So I worked at a nonprofit for 10 years, and towards the end of that was in a talent acquisition role and was recruiting for executives and directors and managers there. And what I loved about that position was watching the brains of the executives try to fit people together and create their teams, and wanting to see cohesion, and also how people work together and think about what matters to them and the characteristics of people that are important to them. And I absolutely loved that. I mean, it was a dream job from the moment I walked into that organization. And I found, in the midst of that, social selling and wanted freedom to be able to be home with my family more often. I just wanted, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, and I always like choices. I always want to have choices. Yep. And
don't want to get stuck.
Right. I don't want to be stuck. And I think in that moment, didn't really feel stuck, but I also wanted to be able to have more than 2 weeks vacation and that sort of thing. And I had 2 young babies at the time. And so I started in the social selling industry. I was really successful in my first couple of years and grew it to a 6-figure business. And in the midst of that, found, oh my gosh, how am I now blessed with 2 incredible careers. And because I had done well in that, I was able to step away from my full-time role at that organization and step into social selling full-time. And what I found I loved most about that was coaching my team. And I just loved women that were in a place that wanted to be that Proverbs 31 woman and wanted to honor their husbands and wanted to, lead their families well and raise up good Christian kids and all of the things. I wanted to work with those women. And I loved what I did in social selling, but I really wanted to just coach. And so I decided to hire a coach, and I worked with her for a while, and then I got certified as a life coach. And then I was not surprised because it was a very clear calling from the Lord that this was what I was supposed to do. It was like, if I just felt this burden to say yes to it. It was undeniable. I couldn't sleep very well for a while. I just felt like I knew I needed to do this. And so when I said yes fully, I was just overwhelmed by the response of women who were in the place that I had been in, but also had seen burnout, that had seen hustle, that had found their identity in what they had built. And so my niche kind of came together just with these were the stories that I was hearing over and over and over again. And it was undeniable that those were the women that I needed to place my focus on. And so now it's been a couple of years, and I'm at a place where I have so many of those that I'm kind of moving in the direction of group coaching, and that's going to be fun. But it's just not an isolated thing. It's just not this one person. We're, as women, like you were talking about with that Proverbs 31 woman, we are being called to this really high standard, especially as Christian women. And that standard is it feels like it puts a lot of pressure on us to be excellent in every single area. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we are burning ourselves out.
I don't know. It was like, you don't even get to sleep. Does she sleep?
Oh, absolutely. It's like, no, my brain, I hit the pillow, and then there's another 30 minutes of conversation that's going on after that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you see a connection between the women who seek you out, the high intensity pace, and the loneliness that you mentioned?
Oh gosh, yeah. Because I think that, we've worked so hard to try to match what men are doing. And this kind of like, okay, when I'm at work, and this detachment, it's almost like we're going for this detached feeling of I can work and I can put in all the hours and I can make as much money as I want to. But I really feel like the Lord has created us to be empathetic and to have that emotional labor. And we are always very deeply connected and nurturing for our families, which is how we're designed. And that's the thing, is I think that we have pulled away from the design of what, like, God's creation and Him creating us to be empathetic and to be the nurturers. And it's not that we can't do both, but it also means that we have to be very aware of what we're saying yes to. And I find that those women that are making a lot of money are saying yes to a lot of things because there's this scarcity that if I don't say yes to that, now my husband's depending on my income, or now I'm depending on that income, or we've built our lifestyle to be a certain way and now we're comfortable. Or what are others going to think of me if I have to pull back and I'm not driving Lexus anymore, or something like that? It really is just, it's so, it can be so detrimental to us and to our relationship with Jesus and our relationship with others. And it really pulls us away from those deep connections because we've just isolated. We've put our heads down and we've focused so hard on the work and our families that we no longer have those deep-rooted connections with other women above or beside or below or mentoring. And then we find ourselves in a really lonely place. And I see that a lot right now, especially with COVID.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I watched this show that's set like in the 1600s. Okay, so small community, right? Like your entire community might be 50 people.
Yeah.
And I was watching this mentoring relationship between an older woman and a younger woman. And I was like, in this scenario, this older woman is really like her person. You know, if there's 50 people in this community, they don't have, it's not like she can find someone online or do coaching or make a call. Like, she's waiting for this woman to come home so she can process this issue in her marriage. But I was like, how deep and how sweet and meaningful is that? And here in our culture, you know, I have, you know, more than 2,000 friends on my personal Facebook page, and I see people posting and I'm like, wait, did I meet them? Do I remember them? Who is that?
Right.
And
yes.
we have so many connections, and our relationships are much more shallow, and we're isolated and we're lonely. And I think that that is a big piece of the connectedness is a big piece of being an overcomer and preventing burnout. I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about what you said, Whitney, when you said that scarcity mindset is like, if I don't take this opportunity, I'm going to crash my family. Talk about the abundance versus scarcity mindset.
Yeah. I think that what I am seeing right now with the women that I'm working with is it doesn't just happen at a certain income level. Like, I don't just see it with the women that are making $100,000 a year. I see it with the women that are making $300,000 a month. And it feels like, oh, interesting. Wow. We think that money kind of solves some of those things. Like, okay, well, if you think about, I'm pulling in $300K a month, surely I can start kind of pulling back. And because I've worked so hard, right?
There'll be a vacation in those
$300,000,
$300,000, right?
That's what I'm working towards. I want to have 3 houses, and I want to be able to only work, you know, a few hours a day, or, you know, only 2 days a week or something. That's like the dream, right? Instead is the very opposite. What I'm finding with the women that I'm working with is that, oh man, now I'm making this much money. What happens if it all goes away? Or what happens if we do go into a recession? Or what happens if... And it is in that almost like a hoarding type of mindset. It is part of that. One of my clients was like, my husband tells me there's no possible way for me to ever replace your income. Even if I wanted to go back to work, I don't know if I could ever replace that, you know? So then it's like,
which is an honor and a pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. So now I'm in this position and I can't let my family down, and it's all up to me now, which is back to that design of, you know, the husband being the head of the household and that sort of thing too. But when you think about that scarcity, it's usually not financially related. It usually is, no, but who am I if it's not what I do? And who have I become if it's not what I'm putting out there? And so it is more wrapped up into what I have built and what I've created. And the enemy really gets sneaky in there. And he comes in and he's like, yes, but then if you pull back, like, who is there to give you accolades, and who's going to tell you that they respect you, and way to go. Like, is it enough for me to just be a mom or a wife or whatever, you know, is it enough? Because we do feel like we have to have 14 titles at one time, any given time. And I just talked to a client the other day, and she's like, I have 8 kids and I have the perfect house and the perfect life, except my health is failing. I never have time for myself. I don't have any friends. I don't have anyone I can employ all the people to help me clean my home or watch the kids or whatever. Yet I am the loneliest and most depressed and unhealthy, and it is a life or death situation at this point. It's like, but you're making millions of dollars. Like, is this not an easy fix? And the truth is, like, you know, what we all know is that money is not what buys that. Even our health, even happiness, even identity, even hope, right? It's like that has nothing, money has nothing to do with it. And for the ambitious Christian woman, we think that that's going to solve it. And it never does, ever.
Okay, well, I would love to hear what you say to that woman, because she's saying, I have it all, and yet I have lost myself. And so where do you take her in that conversation?
Yeah. I think my first step is always like, if you're telling me that you don't have people, you know, you've got like a sister, or you've got a husband or something, or your mom, but they're all hearing the same thing all the time. And often when it's people that are that close, we're sort of desensitized to what they're actually telling us, and we just miss it altogether. So the value, in my opinion, of coaching especially is to create safety in a conversation with someone like that, where they, I become, or a coach or therapist, counselor becomes the safest person for them, where they don't know any of the background. They're not jumping into the pool with them. My job is to never have my own thoughts and opinions about it. It really is just to stay in a neutral place, to create safety, to even just find and mine their brain for the things that are keeping them where they're at. So it's asking them, getting curious with their brain, and creating that container that allows them to, for the first time, to just be a little bit more open-handed with some of their thoughts, to create that vulnerability. So that's kind of step number one. And then usually the conversation moves into, okay, I need to get connected locally, or I need to go find friends, or I need to find people that I can be vulnerable with, because the women that are at those levels, it's like, I don't need anyone. I've got it together. I should be able to do it all. I hear this all the time. And so I think it really is finding people that can come alongside, that don't feel like, oh, I need them, but how am I showing up to serve them also? How am I, why is a friendship just not a one-way thing? It's because often, like, I had someone the other day who was like, I've literally never had a friend like that. I've literally never had anyone who has been.
That hurts my heart.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, it was like a realization, like an aha moment to me. Cause I'm telling her, like, she got totally gypped out of family. I mean, her story is so sad. And she was just telling me, like, I said, well, who's coming? She's like, my family won't come to my kid's birthday party. They're all addicts and all the things. And I don't have any friends. I'm like, family is not the only thing. I have friends that are my kids' godparents, and our kids are named after, like, they are chosen family. They are adopted family, right? They blood or not.
Choose.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I have no idea what that looks like. And so the next step in that conversation is just like the awareness that God has designed us to be in community with one another at a deep level. And for some, that feels very scary and vulnerable, because it means that we potentially have to rely on someone. But it also invites us into a place of service, and into, like, what am I missing, and how am I showing up or not showing up? Because the enemy has been pouring lies into my brain about I should be able to do it all by myself.
So I should be able to do it all by myself. That's a huge lie. What are other lies that you see that are common, that the enemy uses to keep people out of community, out of vulnerability, out of intimacy, isolated and alone?
Yeah. Some things that I hear are, they won't understand what I'm walking through. They won't be able to relate. If I'm making $300K a month, that's not a super common income, right? So it's like,
I might not drop that, in a lunch convo.
Right. I have no idea. Yeah. Like, if they found out, can they relate? Or they won't understand, or they'll judge me because I've spent the last 20 years just pouring into my business, and they're going to judge me for not making my kids a priority, or they're going to think I'm not making my kids a priority. So there's a lot of judgment, and usually it's that mirrored.
I was going to say, that sounds like a very self-reflected.
Like,
I'm afraid that I haven't prioritized my kids, and so that's going to come back at me. Yes,
absolutely. All of those thoughts it all comes, because usually when we think of, like, they're going to think that, it's usually one or two people that you have that you're thinking of. It's not the collective whole 600, 2,000 people that I have friends on Facebook. It's like, no, I'm only thinking of the 3 or 4 specifically, right? And so it's this, it very much is like pointed back in our direction. So they're going to judge me. I don't know how. It's really scary. It's really uncomfortable. They won't understand what I've walked through. They won't understand the trauma that I've been through. They'll feel sorry for me. I have a couple clients who have walked through major, major trauma, and I don't even want to bring it up anymore. I don't even want to share it anymore. Or I feel like they're just going to have pity. And so it's this, like, very scary, vulnerable, how do I share this and be okay with bringing it up again without feeling like I have to walk through it again if they haven't totally healed from that. So which is
a huge bar. Just like, in order to make a friend, I have to feel comfortable to share my trauma. That is a mile high bar, right? Because friendships don't start with our trauma.
Yeah.
They start, like I'm in this online dating world, and I will tell you that I absolutely hate superficial conversation. And
Yes.
I don't really want to know what your favorite color is. And yet I am in these like starter conversations over and over again. Like the potential to begin a relationship doesn't begin with the death of my husband, right?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't bring the hardest and worst thing to the table
Yeah.
to see if we're a fit,
Yeah.
and with women, we have to do the same dance. It does feel like we're dating each other. Hey, will you go to coffee with
gosh,
me?
yes.
And what do you do? And what's it like? And I think imagining all the way down the road, like, is this person safe enough for me to hold my heart? You're not there yet. Like, if
Yeah.
that's keeping you from asking for a coffee or going for a walk, like, you're way ahead. Like, that's when you're like, I'm not going to go on coffee with you unless I know I could marry you.
Yes.
I mean, that's way too much pressure for an
Yes.
initial relationship or an initial meetup. And so, ladies, if you're listening to this, don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Nobody needs to know your trauma at the first lunch anyway,
Yeah.
ladies. Okay.
Right.
Like, that's why you have life coaches and therapists and mentors and, intimate people in your life is, we got to start a little smaller and make realistic. I think, I'm curious what you think about this, Whitney. Like, we have gotten so intimate in a very superficial way online, right? Like, if you go on TikTok, people are pouring out their souls in 90-second clips.
Yeah.
And we're so lonely that we're longing for that. And yet, if you think about it, it is kind of out of order, I would say, to meet someone through a social media experience who's sharing the deepest trauma of your soul. And that's like your initial experience of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, in many ways, that's what people know of me, right? Because I talk about my trauma and my loss. And so then they see that and they know these deep things and they come up to me in public and they're like, oh, well, I know that about you. And I'm like, well, I don't even know your name,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what is that like to just set realistic expectations to begin to develop community? Because this is something I'm so passionate about in the concept of resilience, is that we need models, we need realistic expectations, we need community around us, and we need to be able to dream and see a future. And so when you're talking about community, you're getting me really excited because I don't know that we can be resilient and overcome by ourselves.
Oh, totally. I would 100% agree with that. Yeah. I think the place it starts even trying to believe that it's possible, right? Even like I love the metaphor with dating because it's almost like overcoming that first thought of, is there even someone like it, for to date or multiple people or potentially a husband. Even with friendship, if you have never had that before, then I have found the first thought that they're overcoming at the very beginning is just, is it even possible to find someone like that? I've had that my whole life. So, but I grew up in a really conservative Christian culture. And so that was sort of like just baked into what I was raised in. And for others that have had parents that have been addicts since they were born or have experienced trauma or have been sexually trafficked, those types of those stories, how in the world do they get to a place where they have the deep founded belief that it's possible to find someone that's not going to reject them or not just going to be interested in their trauma or is not just going to feel pity when they have that conversation, right? So it's like overcoming that first thought that no, there are people out there for you and God has created that for a reason and it is possible. So I think that's the first thing. And then I think when, finding the courage instead of looking inward, like what are they going to take? What is it going to take from me to like, how am I adding value? How am I putting myself out there? And why is this good for me and for this other person? Because more than likely, if I'm this lonely or if I'm feeling this way, someone else is too. Same goes with dating, right? There's probably someone that has the same longing that I do, or maybe has walked through something. We've all walked through difficult things, varying levels, right? They've probably walked through something hard too. And that just makes us human. And so it's just a matter of finding a tolerance to like, what am I willing to take on from someone else? And there's a boundaries conversation in there too, but just what am I willing to give and how am I willing to receive? Because you see women in the church specifically that are like, oh, I'm a 2 and I'm here to serve. And I've always been this way. And I can't ever, it's very uncomfortable to accept any kind of help and
that makes you weak or vulnerable
totally.
if you own your needs.
Yeah. And then I have someone coming in and I'm walking up and I'm like, hey, can we be friends? Can we go do this? And it's like showing courage in that moment to say like, I am in need of this. I love the way Jenny Allen talks about it in her whole kick right now with Find Your People. And I heard her at the If Gathering and it was like, yes, this conversation is so good because it is like you were just talking about getting off of moving past the, what's your favorite color to like, okay, you don't have to tell me about every piece of the trauma, right? But like, what is hard that you're walking through today? Or what's something that you're like, that's going on over here in the back of your mind that is keeping you from being fully present, right? Those are the women that I'm talking to all the time. Like, hey, you can't be fully present in your business. You can't actually show up the way you want to if you're worried about this friendship or your mother-in-law or, something happened with your kids. Like that stuff is what we really need to be talking about in order to have a clear head to walk into dating or your business or finding another job or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Whitney, I hate to interrupt you, but this is such a good conversation. I'd love to continue it next time for part 2. Would you be willing to join me for that?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, join us next week for part 2 of this interview with Whitney Kroneberger on the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachaelflick.com. While you are there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachaelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review. To follow Rachael on social media, simply click on the social media icons at the top of the page and you will be directed to those sites. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.